君は嘘をついている。行こう。今ならまだ間に合う。
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Days with My Stepsister, episode number 5. I think this episode really sucked. Now, I'm not saying it was the worst thing ever. I'm not saying it was unwatchable. I'm not saying that it was like a goose egg out of 10. I'm just saying this was about a 5, maybe a 6 out of 10 on its like best day. And the reason that I wanted to start the video with like, hey, this episode sucked, is because I think in comparison to all the other prior episodes, this was the worst episode of the season so far. And one of the things that I had mentioned in one of the various episodes that I've covered so far is Days with My Stepsister very much teeters that line between boring and interesting. And the studio, and this is Studio Dean, needs to be very cautious of, they can teeter that line, no problem, but they always kind of have to skew up to, you know, being interesting with the, you know, with the level of awkwardness that they're providing their viewers and they're providing their audience and how they're adapting it from the book or whatever. This episode, though, skewed down into the boring level and is skewed down into the time-wasting level. Now, let me tell you the positives, okay? Because there was positives this episode. Again, it wasn't a goose egg. It wasn't a shit show out of 10. It was about a 5, 6 out of 10. Means that there's still some stuff in there. It's just overall, it wasn't that great. But, you know, the anime overall, 7.5 out of 10. I think this is a decent, high decent to good anime. Positives. I really like that Yuuta went out with his coworker. I like that he went out with his coworker, and I like that his coworker likes him. I think that is an important thing. I think his coworker is falling for him, but also realizes that his little sister, his new stepsister, probably likes him as well, based on all the things he said about her, and she can tell that he probably has an interest in Saki as well. Whether it's romantic, whether it's whatever, there's some feelings there, even if he hasn't recognized it yet. But she can, because she's a girl, she's a woman. They have these instincts about things, especially when you're talking about somebody. You don't just waste your time talking about somebody that you're not interested in. At the end of the day, if you come home every day and you're talking about, you know, Billy at work, you like Billy at work, period. Yeah. Whether you're bitching about him or whether you're praising about him, you like Billy at work. You come home, you're talking about little Susie at school. You know, little Susie, she did this, little Susie did that, little Susie did, you like Susie, period, the end. You don't talk about people you don't like, period, the end. You just simply don't. Even if the words you're saying are trying to convey you don't like them, you enjoy it, whatever the case is, okay? That's just simply how it works. It's how life works, that's how we're programmed. Men, though, we're idiots, and we don't quite get sometimes that maybe our feelings may be ahead of our brains. Okay. I like that he went out with the coworker, and, you know, one of the things I've said early on was that I think the best thing for Saki and Yuuta to not get in a predicament where, you know, they mess up their parents' marriage relationship, and they don't mess up their own, because unless they get with each other and stay with each other, that's really the only path forward, right? And they decide they're in love and they stay with each other. And then now they're one big happy family and their parents have to, you know, deal with that. I can't even imagine. I would have a stroke on the spot. But like, that's the only way that it could work, because if not, 90%, 95, 98% of the time, if you go down that path, what's going to happen is they're not going to work out, and they're going to fuck up their relationship, and they're going to fuck up their parents' relationship. Period. The end. That's the only outcome. Again, unless they truly fall in love and they're perfect for each other, and they somehow make it out of high school in a relationship, you know what I mean? And they push forward and they end up, you know, still being in a relationship. The only path forward is like they get married, you know what I mean? Like they fall in love and they're like, you know, you're my soulmate kind of thing. Otherwise, you're just fucking up everything else, because it's almost level impossible to then have a semblance of any type of familiar relationship with somebody that you have slept with. I mean, it's just impossible. So I love the idea of Yuuta or Saki, one of them, getting a boyfriend, getting a girlfriend, and going down that path with another person. Because then what ends up happening is you're no longer looking for that companionship. You're no longer looking for that affection. You're no longer looking for that hole to be filled by somebody who's in close proximity. It's being filled by somebody else. Now, let's say Yuuta dates the coworker or Saki dates a boyfriend. Regardless, there's still going to be one who needs their holes filled in more ways than one. But that now then they can begin looking for that validation, affection, loyalty, whatever it is. They can begin looking for that outside the home. Because what ends up happening is, let's say Yuuta dates the coworker officially, and he likes her, and whatever, he's gonna get that affection, the attention, the loyalty, the companionship, the friendship from her, and now he can then see his sister as a sister and be like, okay, I have this familial bond, I care about her, but I have a woman, you know what I mean? Like, I have somebody. Now his view and that door, that forbidden door that's kind of creaked open right now, wouldn't be. Reciprocally, let's say Saki would do the same thing. Again, she wouldn't be then looking at home. She would then look at Yuuta as somebody she cares about and she wants to conversate with. But at the end of the day, she's thinking about her boyfriend or new husband or whatever. And thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go out with him this weekend. I'm gonna go do this. He's gonna come over. Blah blah blah. I think that's the best thing. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No. Reason being is because I think the coworker realizes that Saki may have feelings for Yuuta. Yuuta may have feelings for Saki. Again, what those feelings are being figured out. So that's the positive of the episode. Is I like that he went on a date, and I like that stuff. I guess the other positives, the art was, once again, the art was really good. And I think, seeing Saki go to Yuta's store and her trying to begin having interest in the same thing he has. Again, you love to see it. You love to see it from like a familial way, not in a romantic way, trying to have common ground, common interest. The things I didn't like about the episode, and I'm just going to spend the last couple minutes on this. The thing that I think made the episode suck is it spent way too much time on the movie. Not only did they really show us portions of this movie that doesn't exist, they showed us fiction within fiction. They showed us too much of this movie that didn't exist. And I can understand that maybe if you're reading a manga and it's panels, the way you absorb the information is quite different. But when you're viewing it, it's like that took me out of the episode completely. I would have much rather have them show me just like a little simple scene, show me Yuuta and his library girlfriend, and then they can cut to the next thing. I can understand, though, as you're reading, you get some more context and they share this scene. And maybe you get the library girl's inner thoughts of, whatever. And, like it's better that way. But watching it, it's like they wasted 5-6 minutes of a 20-minute episode. So they wasted like a quarter of an episode showing us a movie and then showing us the movie again after the fact. So they just wasted so much time. And then the movie became the subject of Yuuta and Saki's conversation again. And then the movie came up again. So it's like they just kind of really wasted a lot of the viewers' time. And frankly, it was really boring. Like my eyes are glazing over. Again, you may not feel this way. This is a very me feeling, and this is for somebody out there who may have the same feelings as me. If you're the opposite, totally cool. This is just how I felt bored. My eyes were glazing over. I was like, there's too much time wasted. And nothing really, outside of Yuuta went out on a date with Library Girl. Saki maybe got a little jealous of the fact, are you guys dating now? And then Yuuta at the end, kind of getting impressed by Library Girl of like, oh, she seems to be, she seems to have the stuff. Outside of that, nothing else happened this episode. So I do think this was the worst episode of the season. Again, I don't think it's unwatchable. I don't think it's a goose egg out of 10. I don't think it's whatever. I just think that it's like a 5 or 6 out of 10. I think it's the worst episode of the season. And I think it sucked. I think it was a little bit boring. And it's because of that careful line that they're going to have to continue balancing that awkward interest that they're trying to build for us. It's very close to, if they just fuck up a little bit, it skews down to boring. And that's where I felt this episode was. Again, you don't feel this way, totally cool. Let me know why in the comments. You know what I mean? Let me know your side of the story in the comments below. I'm always interested to hear most of the times that, you know, people's opinions that are different than mine, which is totally okay. And if you're feeling kind of the same way, you know, if you kind of felt bored this episode too, I think that's an okay feeling to feel. Let me know why that was. Maybe it wasn't the movie scene that threw you. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was the after. Maybe it was whatever. I do think there was cute moments, and I do think there was positives in this episode. I just don't think it was a good one. All right, I'm hit 10 minutes. I went way over my time. I'll see you guys next week for episode number 6, which hopefully will be better. Peace.